Namaste, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mir, ni hao, buenos dias, heseche, akwaba, welkomen, what up, though? This is Storytelling Therapy, session numero 8. And today we have 4 stories to share. One of the stories is a double feature. These stories include Mansa Musa, Kintaro, and 2 stories of Chuang-Tzu. One is Chuang-Tzu and Where is the Tao? And the other is Chuang-Tzu and 3 Auspicious Wishes. So the first of these is Mansa Musa, coming from the tradition of West Africa. And this is indeed the double feature because this includes the story of a predecessor of Mansa Musa, Sunjata. Sunjata is an epic tale of the progenitor of the Mali Empire of Western Africa over 1,000 years ago, thereabouts. So, we have 2 stories. One is Sunjata. It is an excerpt from the narrative verbally told by the griot Mamadou Koyate. And the second of the double feature is a narrative, a biography of Mansa Musa, shared by Wikipedia. So, here it is, Sunjata and Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa is the great-grand-nephew of Sunjata. So here we go with Sunjata. Again, this is told by Mamadou Koyate. I am a griot. It is I, Djele Mamadou Koyate, son of Bintou Koyate and Djele Kendia Koyate, master in the art of eloquence. Since time immemorial, the Koyates have been in the service of the Keita princes of Mali. We are vessels of speech. We are the repositories which harbor secrets many centuries old. The art of eloquence has no secrets for us. Without us, the names of kings would vanish into oblivion. We are the memory of mankind. By the spoken word, we bring to life the deeds and exploits of kings for younger generations. I derive my knowledge from my far, Djele Kedian, who also got it from his far. History holds no mystery for us. We teach to the vulgar just as much as we want to teach them, for it is we who keep the keys to the 12 doors of Mali. I know the list of all the sovereigns who succeeded to the throne of Mali. I know how the black people divided into tribes, for my far bequeathed to me all his learning. I know why such and such is called Kamara, another Kaita, and another Sibid or Traod. Every name has a meaning, a secret import. I teach kings the history of their ancestors, so that the lives of the ancients might serve them as an example. For the world is old, but the future springs from the past. My word is pure and free from all untruth. It is the word of my far. It is the word of my far's far. I will give you my far's words just as I receive them. Royal griots do not know what lying is. When a quarrel breaks out between tribes, it is we who settle the difference, for we are the depositories of oaths which the ancestors swore. Listen to my word, you who want to know. By my mouth you will learn the history of Mali. By my mouth you will get to know the secret of the ancestor of great Mali, the story of him who by his exploits surpassed even Alexander the Great, he who from the east shed his rays upon all the countries of the west. Listen to the story of the son of the buffalo, the son of the lion. I am going to tell you of Magan Sunjata, of Mari Jata, of Sogolon Jata, of Nard Magan Jata, the man of many names against whom sorcery could avail nothing. Listen then, sons of Mali, children of the black people, listen to my word, for I am going to tell you of Sunjata, the far of the bright country of the savannah land, the ancestor of those who draw the bow, who draw the bow, the master of 100 vanquished kings. I'm going to talk of Sunjata, Manding Diara, line of Mali, Sogolo Jata, son of Sogolon, Nare Magan Jata, son of Nare Magan, Sogo Simbon Salaba, hero of many names. I'm going to tell you of Sunjata, he whose exploits will astonish men for a long time yet. He was great amongst kings, he was peerless amongst men, he was beloved of God because he was the last of the great conquerors. Right at the beginning then, Mali was a province of the Bambara kings. Those who are today called Mandingo inhabitants of Mali are not indigenous. They come from the east. Belali Bunama, ancestor of the Kaitas, was the faithful servant of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Belali Bunama had 7 sons, of whom the eldest Lawalo left the holy city and came to settle in Mali. Lawalo had Latal Kalabi for a son. Latal Kalabi had Damul Kalabi, who then had Lahila Tul Kalabi. Lahila Tul Kalabi was the first black prince to make the pilgrimage to Mecca. On his return, he was robbed by brigands in the desert. His men were scattered and some died of thirst, but God saved Lahila Tul Kalabi, for he was a righteous man. He called upon the Almighty, and jinn appeared and recognized him as king. After 7 years' absence, Lahila Tul was able to return by the grace of Allah the Almighty to Mali, where none expected to see him any further. Lahila Tul Kalabi had 2 sons, the elder being called Kalabi Bomba, and the younger Kalabi Doman. The elder chose royal power and reigned, whilst the younger preferred fortune and wealth and became the ancestor of those who go from country to country seeking their fortune. Kalabi Bomba had Mamadi Kani for a son. Mamadi Kani was a hunter king like the first kings of Mali. It was he who invented the hunter's whistle. He communicated with the jinn of the forest and bush. These spirits had no secrets from him, and he was loved by Kondolon Nisan. His followers were so numerous that he formed them into an army which became formidable. He often gathered them together in the bush and taught them the art of hunting. It was he who revealed to hunters the medicinal leaves which healed wounds and cured diseases. Thanks to the strength of his followers, he became king of a vast country. With them, Mamadi Kani conquered all the lands which stretched from the Sankarani to the Board. Mamadi Kani had 4 sons, Kani Simbon, Kamignonog Simbon, Kabala Simbon, and Simbon Tagnogo Kalen. They were all initiated into the art of hunting and deserved the title of Simbon. It was the lineage of Bamari Tagno Gokelin which held on to the power. His son was Mimbale Neumb, whose son was Belo. Belo's son was called Belo Bakan, and he had a son called Magan Konfata, also called Frako Magan Kegu, Magan the Handsome. Magan Konfata was the far of the great Sunjata, and had 3 wives and 6 children, 3 boys and 3 girls. His first wife was called Sasuma Bridirda, daughter of the great Sacred. She was the more of King Dankaran Tuman and Princess Nana Triban. The second wife, Sogolon Keju, was the more of Sunjata and the 2 princesses, Sogolon Kolokan and Sogolon Jamaro. The third wife was one of the Kamaras and was called Namanje. She was the more of the Manding Bori, or Manding Bakari, who was the best friend of his half-brother Sunjata. That is an introduction to the epic of Sunjata, shared by the Griot, Mamadou Koyate. We continue on with this double feature and the story of Mansa Musa, the great-grandson of the great-grandnephew of Sunjata. This is shared by Wikipedia. Musa Keita I, born 280 circa 13 a 37, born 12,080 in the Christian era and dying approximately 1337 in the Christian era. Musa Keita I was the 10th Mansa which translates as sultan or king, conqueror, or emperor of the wealthy West African Mali Empire. At the time of Musa's rise to the throne, the Malian Empire consisted of territory formerly belonging to the Ghana Empire in present-day southern Mauritania and in Mele, Mali, and the immediate surrounding areas. Musa held many titles including Emir of Mele, Master of the Mines of Wangara, Conqueror of Ganata, and at least a dozen others. It is said that Mansa Musa had conquered 24 cities, 24, each with surrounding districts containing villages and estates during his reign. During his reign, Mali may have been the largest producer of gold in the world at a point of exceptional demand. One of the richest people in history, he is known to have been enormously wealthy, reported as being inconceivably rich by contemporaries. There's truly no way to put an accurate number on his wealth. Quoted from Davidson, 2015. Musa Keita was referred to and is most commonly found as Mansa Musa in Western manuscripts and literature. His name also appears as Kanku Musa, Kanka Musa, and Kanku Musa. Kanku is a popular Manding female name. Thus Kanku Musa reads Musa, whose more was Kanku. Other alternatives are Mali Koi, Kankan Musa, Ganga Musa, and the Lion of Mali. What is known about the kings of the Malian Empire is taken from the writings of Arab scholars, including Al-Umari, Abu Sa'id, Uthman ad-Dawkali, Ibn Khaldun, and Ibn Battuta. According to Ibn Khaldun's comprehensive history of the Malian kings, Mansa Musa's grandfather was Abu Bakr Kaita, the Arabic equivalent to Bakari or Bagare, original name unknown, not the Sahabi Abu Bakr. A brother of Sunjata Keita, the founder of the Malian Empire, as recorded through oral histories. Abu Bakr did not ascend the throne, and his son Musa's far, Fagalaye, has no significance in the history of Mali. Mansa Musa Keita came to the throne through a practice of appointing a deputy when a king goes on his pilgrimage to Mecca or some other endeavor, and later naming the deputy as heir. According to primary sources, Musa was appointed deputy of Abu Bakari Keita II, the king before him, who had reportedly embarked on an expedition to explore the limits of the Atlantic Ocean and never returned. The Arab-Egyptian scholar Al-Umari quotes Mansa Musa as follows: "The ruler who preceded me did not believe that it was impossible to reach the extremity of the ocean that encircles the earth, the Atlantic Ocean. He wanted to reach that end and was determined to pursue his plan. So he equipped 200 boats full of men and many others full of gold, water, and provisions sufficient for several years. He ordered the captain not to return until they had reached the other end of the ocean, or until he had exhausted the provisions and water. So they set out on their journey. They were absent for a long time, and at last just one boat returned. When questioned, the captain replied, 'O Prince, we navigated for a long period until we saw in the midst of the ocean a great river, which was flowing massively. My boat was the last one, others were ahead of me, and they were drowned in the great whirlpool and never came out again. I sailed back to escape this current.' But the Sultan would not believe him. He ordered 2,000 boats to be equipped for him and his men, and 1,000 further for water and provisions. Then he conferred the regency on me for the term of his absence and departed with his men, never to return nor to give a sign of life." Musa's son and successor Mansa Maga Keita was also appointed deputy during Musa's pilgrimage. From the distant reaches of the Mediterranean Sea to the Indus River, the faithful approached the city of Mecca. All had the same objective, to worship together at the most sacred shrine of Islam, the Kaaba in Mecca. One such traveler was Mansa Musa, Sultan of Mali in Western Africa. Mansa Musa had prepared carefully for the long journey he and his attendants would take. He was determined to travel not only for his own religious fulfillment, but also for recruiting teachers and leaders so that his realms could learn further of the Prophet ﷺ's teachings. Muhammad Kaiti, Chronicle of the Seeker, is quoted here. Musa was a devout Muslim, and his pilgrimage to Mecca made him well known across northern Africa and the Middle East. To Musa, Islam was an entry into the cultured world of the Eastern Mediterranean. He would spend much time fostering the growth of the religion within his empire. Musa made his pilgrimage between 1324 a 1325, 1324 and 1325 in the Christian Gregorian era. His procession reportedly included 60,000 men, 60,000 men, including 2,000 slaves, 12,000 slaves, each who carried 1.8 kilos or 4 pounds of gold bars, and heralds dressed in silks who bore gold staffs, organized horses, and handled bags. Musa provided all necessities for the procession, feeding the entire company of men and animals. Those animals included 80 camels, which each carried 23 a 136, 23 to 136 kilograms, 50 to 300 pounds of gold dust. Musa gave the gold to the poor he met along his route. Musa not only gave to the cities he passed on the way to Mecca, including Cairo and Medina, but also traded gold for souvenirs. It was reported that he built a masjid every Friday. Musa's journey was documented by several eyewitnesses along his route who were in awe of his wealth and extensive procession, and records exist in a variety of sources, including journals, oral accounts, and histories. Musa is known to have visited Mamluk Sultan of Egypt, Al-Nasir Muhammad, in July 324, July 1324 in the Christian Gregorian calendar. But Musa's generous actions inadvertently devastated the economy of the regions through which he passed. In the cities of Cairo, Medina, and Mecca, the sudden influx of gold devalued the metal for the next decade. Prices on products and wares greatly inflated. To rectify the gold market on his way back from Mecca, Musa borrowed all the gold he could carry from moneylenders in Cairo at high interest. This is the only time recorded in history that one man directly controlled the price of gold in the Mediterranean. Whenever a hero adds to the list of his exploits from a conquest, Mansa Musa gives them a pair of wide trousers. The greater the number of a Dogari's exploits, the bigger the size of his trousers. That is from Al-Dukhari. During his long return journey from Mecca in 1325 Christian Gregorian era, Musa heard news that his army had captured Gao. Sagmandia, one of his generals, led the endeavor. The city of Gao had been within the empire since before Sukkara's reign and was an important, though often rebellious, trading center. Musa made a detour and visited the city, where he received as hostages the two sons of the Gao king, Ali Kolan and Suleiman Nar. He returned to Niani with the two boys and later educated them at his court. When Mansa Musa returned, he brought back many Arabian scholars and architects. Musa embarked on a large building program, raising masjids and madrasas in Timbuktu and Gao. Most notably, the ancient center of learning, Sankare Madrasa, or University of Sankare, was constructed during his reign. In Niani, Musa built the Hall of Audience, a building communicating by an interior door to the royal palace. It was an admirable monument surrounded by a dome and adorned with arabesques of striking colors. The wooden window frames of an upper story were plated with silver foil, those of a lower story with gold. Like the great masjid, a contemporaneous and grandiose structure in Timbuktu, the hall was built of cut stone. During this period, there was an advanced level of urban living in major cities of the Mali. Sergio Domian, an Italian scholar of art and architecture, wrote of this period, "Thus was laid the foundation of an urban civilization. At the height of its power, Mali had at least 400 cities, and the interior of the Twi-Ibo Delta was very densely populated." It is recorded that Mansa Musa traveled through the cities of Timbuktu and Gao on his way to Mecca and made them a part of his empire when he returned around 1325 in the Christian Gregorian era. He brought architects from Andalusia, a region in Spain, and Cairo to build his grand palace in Timbuktu and the great Jinguraber Masjid that still stands today. Timbuktu soon became a center of trade, culture, and Islam. Markets brought in merchants from Hausaland, Egypt, and other African kingdoms. A university was founded in the city as well as in the Malian cities of Djenné and Ségou, and Islam was spread through the markets and university, making Timbuktu a new area for Islamic scholarship. News of the Malian Empire's city of wealth even traveled across the Mediterranean to southern Europe, where traders from Venice, Granada, and Genoa soon added Timbuktu to their maps to trade manufactured products for gold. The University of Sankara in Timbuktu was restaffed under Musa's reign with jurists, astronomers, and mathematicians. The university became a center of learning and culture, drawing Muslim scholars from around Africa and the Middle East to Timbuktu. In 1330 in the Christian Gregorian era, the kingdom of Mosi invaded and conquered the city of Timbuktu. Gao had already been captured by Musa's general, and Musa quickly regained Timbuktu and built a rampart and stone fort, and placed a standing army to protect the city from future invaders. Whilst Musa's palace has since vanished, the university and masjid still stand in Timbuktu today. By the end of Mansa Musa's reign, the Sankara University had been converted into a fully staffed university with the largest collections of books in Africa since the Library of Alexandria. The Sankara University was capable of housing 25,000 students, 25,000 students, and had one of the largest libraries in the world with roughly 1 million manuscripts. The death date of Mansa Musa is highly debated amongst modern historians and the Arab scholars who recorded the history of Mali. When compared to the reigns of his successors, son Mansa Magan recorded rule from 1337 a 1341, 1337 to 1341 Christian Gregorian era, and older brother Mansa Suleiman recorded rule from 1341 a 1360, 1341 to 1360 Christian Gregorian era, and Musa's recorded 25 years of rule. The calculated date of death is 1337 Christian Gregorian era. Other records declare Musa planned to abdicate the throne to his son Magan, but he died soon after he returned from Mecca in 1325 Christian Gregorian era. According to an account by Ibn Khaldun, Mansa Musa was alive when the city of Tlemcen in Algeria was conquered in 1337 Christian Gregorian era, as he sent a representative to Algeria to congratulate the conquerors on their victory. And that is the story of Mansa Musa from West African Mali tradition. And this brings us to our next story, which is Kintaro, which comes from Japanese tradition. This story is shared by the website World of Tales. The translation is provided by Ye Theodora Ozaki. This is The Adventures of Kintaro, also known as the Golden Boy. Long ago, long ago, there lived in Kyoto a brave soldier named Kintoki. Now he fell in love with a beautiful lady and married her. Not long after this, through the malice of some of his friends, he fell into disgrace at court and was dismissed. This misfortune so preyed upon his mind that he did not long survive his dismissal. He died, leaving behind him his beautiful young wife to face the world alone. Fearing her husband's enemies, she fled to the Ashigara Mountains. As soon as her husband was dead, and there in the lowly forest, where no one ever came except woodcutters, a little boy was born to her. She called him Kintaro, or the Golden Boy. Now the remarkable thing about this child was his great strength, and as he grew older, he grew stronger and stronger, so that by the time he was 8 years of age, he was able to cut down trees as quickly as the woodcutters. Then his mother gave him a large axe, and he used to go out in the forest and help the woodcutters, who called him Wonder Child, and his mother the old nurse of the mountains, for they did not know her high rank. Another favorite pastime of Kintaro's was to smash up rocks and stones. You can imagine how strong he was. Quite unlike other boys, Kintaro grew up all alone in the mountain wilds, and as he had no companions, he made friends with all the animals, and learned to understand them and to speak their strange talk. By degrees, they all grew quite tame and looked upon Kintaro as their master, and he utilized them as his servants and messengers, but his special retainers were the bear, the deer, the monkey, and the hare. The bear had often brought her cubs for Kintaro to romp with, and when she came to take them home, Kintaro would get on her back and have a ride to her cave. He was very fond of the deer too, and would often put his arms around the creature's neck to show that its long horns did not frighten him. Great was the fun they all had together. One day, as usual, Kintaro went up into the mountains, followed by the bear, the deer, the monkey, and the hare. After walking for some time up hill and down, dale and over rough roads, they suddenly came upon a wide and grassy plain, covered with pretty wild flowers. Here indeed was a nice place where they could all have a nice romp together. The deer rubbed his horns against a tree for pleasure, the monkey scratched his back, the hare smoothed his long ears, and the bear gave a grunt of satisfaction. Kintaro said, "Here is a place for a beneficial game. What do you all say to a wrestling match?" The bear, being the biggest and the oldest, answered for the others. "That would be great fun," said she. "I am the strongest animal, so I will make the platform for the wrestlers." And she set to work with a will to dig up the earth and to pat it into shape. "All right," said Kintaro. "I will look on whilst you all wrestle with each other. I shall give a prize to the one who wins in each round." "What fun! We shall all try to get the prize," said the bear. The deer, the monkey, and the hare set to work to help the bear raise the platform on which they were all to wrestle. When this was finished, Kintaro cried out, "Now begin! The monkey and the hare shall open the sports, and the deer shall be umpire. Now, Mr. Deer, you are to be umpire." "He," answered the deer. "I will be umpire. Now, Mr. Monkey, Mr. Hare, if you are both ready, please walk out and take your places on the platform." Then the monkey and the hare both hopped out, quickly and nimbly, to the wrestling platform. The deer, as umpire, stood between the two and called out, "Red back, red back." This to the monkey, who has a red back in Japan. "Are you ready?" Then he turned to the hare. Long ears, are you ready?" Both the little wrestlers faced each other, whilst the deer raised a leaf on high as signal. When he dropped the leaf, the monkey and the hare rushed upon each other, crying, "Yoisho, yoisho." Whilst the monkey and the hare wrestled, the deer called out encouragingly, or shouted warnings to each of them, as the hare or the monkey pushed each other near the edge of the platform and were in danger of falling over. Red back, stand your ground," called out the deer. Long ears, be strong, don't let the monkey beat you," grunted the bear. So the monkey and the hare, encouraged by their friends, tried their very hardest to beat each other. The hare at last gained on the monkey, the monkey seemed to trip up, and the hare, giving him a strong push, sent him flying off the platform with a bound. The poor monkey sat up, rubbing his back, and his face was very long as he screamed angrily, Oh, how my back hurts me." Seeing the monkey in this plight on the ground, the deer, holding his leaf on high, said, "This round is finished, the hare has won." Kintaro then opened his luncheon box, and taking out a rice dumpling, gave it to the hare, saying, "Here is your prize, and you have earned it well." Now the monkey got up looking very cross. As they say in Japan, his stomach stood up, for he felt that he had not been fairly beaten. So he said to Kintaro and the others who were standing by, "I have not been fairly beaten. My foot slipped and I tumbled. Please give me another chance and let the hare wrestle with me for another round." Then Kintaro consenting, the hare and the monkey began to wrestle again. Now, as everyone knows, the monkey is a cunning animal by nature, and he made up his mind to get the best of the hare this time, if it were possible. To do this, he thought that the best and surest way would be to get hold of the hare's long ear. This he soon managed to do. The hare was quite thrown off his guard by the pain of having his long ear pulled so hard, and the monkey, seizing his opportunity at last, caught hold of one of the hare's legs and sent him sprawling in the middle of the dais. The monkey was now the victor and received a rice dumpling from Kintaro, which pleased him so much that he quite forgot his sore back. The deer now came up and asked the hare if he felt ready for another round, and if so, whether he would try a round with him, and the hare was consenting. They both stood up to wrestle. The bear came forward as umpire. The deer with long horns and the hare with long ears. It must have been an amusing sight to those who watched with this queer match. Suddenly the deer went down on one of his knees, and the bear with the leaf on high declared him beaten. In this way, sometimes the one, sometimes the other, conquering the little party, amused themselves till they were tired. At last Kintaro got up and said, "This is enough for today. What a nice place we have found for wrestling. Let us come again mañana. Now we will all go home. Come along." So saying, Kintaro led the way whilst the animals followed. After walking some little distance, they came out on the banks of a river flowing through a valley. Kintaro and his 4 furry friends stood and looked about for some means of crossing. Bridge there was none. The river rushed on its way. All the animals looked serious, wondering how they could cross the stream and get home that evening. Kintaro, however, said, "Wait a moment. I will make a beneficial bridge for you all in a few minutes." The bear, the deer, the monkey, and the hare looked at him to see what he would do now. Kintaro went from one tree to another that grew along the river bank. At last he stopped in front of a very large tree that was growing at the water's edge. He took hold of the trunk and pulled it with all his might, once, twice, thrice. And at the third pull, so great was Kintaro's strength that the roots gave way, and miri, miri, crash, crash. over fell the tree, forming an excellent bridge across the stream. "There," said Kintaro, "what do you think of my bridge? It is quite safe, so follow me." And he stepped across first, and the four animals followed. Never had they seen anyone so strong before, and they all exclaimed, "How strong he is! How strong he is!" Whilst all this was going on by the river, a woodcutter who happened to be standing on a rock overlooking the stream had seen all that passed beneath him. He watched with great surprise Kintaro and his animal companions. He rubbed his eyes to be sure that he was not dreaming, when he saw this boy pull over a tree by the roots, and throw it across the stream to form a bridge. The woodcutter, for such he seemed to be by his dress, marveled at all he saw, and said to himself, "This is no ordinary child. Whose son can he be? I will find out before this day is done." He hastened after the strange party and crossed the bridge behind them. Kintaro knew nothing of all this, and little guessed that he was being followed. On reaching the other side of the river, he and the animals separated, they to their lairs in the woods, and he to his Moor, who was waiting for him. As soon as he entered the cottage, which stood like a matchbox in the heart of the pine woods, he went to greet his Moor, saying, "Okasan, Moor, here I am." "O Kimbo," said his Moor, with a bright smile, glad to see her boy home safe after the long day. "How late you are today! I feared that something had happened to you. Where have you been all the time?" "I took my four friends, the bear, the deer, the monkey, and the hare, up into the hills, and there I made them try a wrestling match to see which was the strongest. We all enjoyed the sport, and are going to the same place mañana to have another match." "Now tell me who is the strongest of all?" asked his Moor, pretending not to know. "Oh, Moor," said Kintaro, "don't you know that I am the strongest? There was no need for me to wrestle with any of them." "But next to you, then, who is the strongest?" "The bear comes next to me in strength," answered Kintaro. And after the bear asked his Moor again, "Next to the bear, it is not easy to say which is the strongest, for the deer, the monkey, and the hare all seem to be as strong as each other," said Kintaro. Suddenly Kintaro and his Moor were startled by a voice from outside. "Listen to me, little boy. Next time you go, take this old man with you to the wrestling match. He would like to join the sport too." It was the old woodcutter who had followed Kintaro from the river. He slipped off his clogs and entered the cottage. Yama Uba and her son were both taken by surprise. They looked at the intruder wonderingly, and saw that he was some one they had never seen before. "Who are you?" they both exclaimed. Then the woodcutter laughed and said, "It does not matter who I am yet, but let us see who has the strongest arm, this boy or myself." Then Kintaro, who had lived all his life in the forest, answered the old man without any ceremony, saying, "We will have a try if you wish it, but you must not be angry whoever is beaten." Then Kintaro and the woodcutter both put out their right arms and grasped each other's hands. For a long time Kintaro and the old man wrestled together in this way, each trying to bend the other's arm, but the old man was very strong, and the strange pair were evenly matched. At last the old man desisted, declaring it a drawn game. "You are indeed a very strong child. There are few men who can boast of the strength of my right hand," said the woodcutter. "I saw you first on the banks of the river a few hours ago, when you pulled up that large tree to make a bridge across the torrent. Hardly able to believe what I saw, I followed you home. Your strength of arm, which I have just tried, proves what I saw this afternoon. When you are full grown, you will surely be the strongest man in all of Japan. It is a pity that you are hidden away in these wild mountains." Then he turned to Kintaro's Moor. "And you, Moor, have you no thought of taking your child to the capital, and of teaching him to carry a sword, as befits a samurai, a Japanese knight?" "You are very kind to take so much interest in my son," replied the Moor. "But he is, as you see, wild and uneducated. I fear it would be very difficult to do as you say, because of his great strength as an infant. I hid him away in this unknown part of the country, for he hurt every one that came near him. I have often wished that I could one day see my boy a knight wearing two swords, but as we have no influential friend to introduce us at the capital, I fear my hope will never come true." "You need not trouble yourself about that. To tell you the truth, I am no woodcutter. I am one of the great generals of Japan. My name is Sadamitsu, and I am a vassal of the powerful master Minamoto no Reiko. He ordered me to go around the country and look for boys who give promise of remarkable strength, so that they may be trained as soldiers for his army. I thought that I could best do this by assuming the disguise of a woodcutter. By benevolent fortune I have thus unexpectedly come across your son. Now if you truly wish him to be a samurai, a knight, I will take him and present him to the master Raiko as a candidate for his service. What do you say to this?" As the kind general gradually unfolded his plan, the Moor's heart was filled with great joy. She saw that here was a wonderful chance of the one wish of her life being fulfilled, that of seeing Kintaro, a samurai, before she died. Bowing her head to the ground, she replied, I will then entrust my son to you if you truly mean what you say. Kintaro had all this time been sitting by Ismore's side, listening to what they said. When Ismore finished speaking, he exclaimed, Oh, joy, joy! I am to go with the general, and one day I shall be a samurai. Thus Kintaro's fate was settled, and the general decided to start for the capital at once, taking Kintaro with him. It need hardly be said that Yamauba was sad at parting with her boy, for he was all that was left to her, but she hid her grief with a strong face, and as they say in Japan. She knew that it was for her boy's benefit, and he should leave her now, and she must not discourage him just as he was setting out. Kintaro promised never to forget her, and said that as soon as he was a knight wearing 2 swords, he would build her a home and take care of her in her old age. All the animals, those he had tamed to serve him, the bear, the deer, the monkey, and the hare, as soon as they found out that he was going away, came to ask if they might attend him as usual. When they learned that he was going away for long, they followed him to the foot of the mountain to see him off. Kimbo, said Ismore, mind and be a benevolent boy. Mr. Kintaro, said the faithful animals, we wish you benevolent health on your travels. Then they all climbed a tree to see the last of him, and from that height they watched him and his shadow gradually grow smaller and smaller till he was lost to sight. The general Sarumitsu went on his way rejoicing at having so unexpectedly found such a prodigy as Kintaro. Having arrived at their destination, the general took Kintaro at once to his master, Minamoto no Raiko, and told him all about Kintaro, and how he had found the child. Master Raiko was delighted with the story, and having commanded Kintaro to be brought to him, made him one of his vassals at once. Master Raiko's army was famous for its band called the Four Braves. These warriors were chosen by himself from amongst the bravest and strongest of his soldiers, and the small and well-picked band was distinguished throughout the whole of Japan for the dauntless courage of its men. When Kintaro grew up to be a man, his master made him the chief of the Four Braves. He was by distance the strongest of them all. Soon after this event, news was brought to the city that a cannibal monster had taken up his abode distantly away, and that people were stricken with fear. Master Raiko ordered Kintaro to the rescue. He immediately started off, delighted at the prospect of trying his sword. Surprising the monster in his den, he made short work of cutting off its head, which he carried back in triumph to his master. Kintaro now rose to be greatest hero of his country, and great was the power and honor and wealth that came to him. He now kept his promise and built a comfortable home for his old Moor, who lived happily with him in the capital to the end of her days. Is not this the story of a great hero? That is the story of Kintaro of Japanese tradition. And now we arrive at the stories of Chongzu. This one is Chongzu and Where is the Tao? Again, the stories of Chongzu are shared by Derek Lin of Taoist Chinese tradition. Where is the Tao? One day, a scholar by the name of Dong Guozi asked Chongzu, that which we call the Tao, where is it? The two of them were outside, and Chongzu said, everywhere. There's no place where the Tao isn't. Dong Guozi did not quite understand this, so he asked, can you be further specific and point it out to me? Chongzu looked around and saw ants crawling underfoot, so he pointed to them, the Tao is amongst these ants. This surprised Dong Guozi. He asked, why such a lowly place? Chongzu pointed to a blade of grass. The Tao is in the weeds. This puzzled Dong Guozi. The ants at least could move around. You couldn't say that about the grass. He asked, aren't the weeds even further lowly than the ants? Chongzu pointed to some discarded construction materials. See that clay tile? The Tao is in it. This puzzled Dongzu even further. He asked, why do you keep going lower and lower? At least the ants and weeds are alive. The clay tile is a dead thing. Chongzu pointed to a pile of manure. The Tao is in urine and defecation. Dong Guozi's puzzlement turned into frustration. He closed his mouth and said nothing further. That is the story of Chongzu and Where is the Tao? This story of Chongzu is called The Three Auspicious Wishes. Again, provided from Derek Lin. Tao tradition, Chinese tradition. 3 auspicious wishes. Chongci and 3 auspicious wishes. Once upon a time in ancient China, there was a legendary monarch by the name of Yao. One day he traveled to the Hua region where he came across a local man. The man said to him, "Greetings, great sage. Please accept my offering of auspicious wishes." Yao stopped to listen, so the man began, "I wish for the sage to have longevity." Yao replied, "I decline." The man offered another wish, "May the sage have great wealth." Again Yao did not accept, "I decline." The man offered one last wish, "May the sage have many sons." Yao was still unreceptive, "I decline." The man found Yao's attitude quite strong. He said, "Longevity, wealth, and many sons are sought after by just about everyone. You alone have declined all 3. Why?" Yao explained, "The further children you have, the further you worry and fear for them. The further wealth you have, the further complexities you must manage the longer you live. The further embarrassing mistakes you make, these wishes do not help us cultivate virtues, so I must decline all of them." The man was disappointed. He said to Yao, "I thought you were a great sage, but now I see you are no further than an ordinary person. Heaven gave all of us life so we can get things done. Having further sons simply given, you can accomplish further through them. What is there to be afraid of? Similarly, having great wealth means you can share further with everyone. What complexities do you have to manage?" Yao had nothing to say, so the man continued, "The sage is comfortable living anywhere without extravagant luxuries, and enjoys simple meals without elaborate delicacies. He is like a bird flying through the air whilst leaving no trace. When the Tao is prevalent in the world, he enjoys the flourishing with everyone. When the Tao is forgotten in the world, he cultivates his own virtues in solitude. After 1,000 years, perhaps he grows weary of the world and leaves it all behind. Perhaps he rides a white cloud and rises up to heaven, where he cannot be affected by the 3 living concerns and the problems of the physical body. Tell me, what embarrassing mistakes will he make?" The man turned around to leave. Yao, sensing great wisdom in the man's words, followed him to learn further. He called out, "Please, I would like to ask." The man no longer wished to talk. He waved at Yao to dismiss him. "Be gone." That is the story of Chongci and the 3 auspicious wishes. And that concludes this session, numero 8, within our storytelling therapy. Namaste, assalamu alaikum, shalom, zaijian, adios, te chakaris, esempe na asamuje kelego. One love and peace, happiness, liberation.